All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. It is so great to see all of you. I apologize for being off camera. It's just connectivity issues. But thank you all for keeping your cameras on when you can. It is January 8th, and we have a brand new Government Affairs Committee today with some amazing guests. We are going to go ahead and get started with a round of introductions. And like usual, we're going to do this popcorn style. So always be ready to take yourselves off of mute when called upon. So we're going to go with, and if I forget your names, I apologize. I'm going off of what is on your screen. So, Ginny. Ginny Lear.
Oh, sorry, Ginny. I'm an associate member, Ginny Lear, and I live in a condo on 2nd Street.
Okay. Dennis Burns.
Hi, good morning. My name is Dennis Burns. I work downtown on State Street. Thanks for having us.
Miss Abby.
Hi, bon ami, Enchanté Hotel. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Art.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Art Federico, and I'm representing the Los Altos Schools Crossing Guard program.
Fantastic. Mark.
Hello, I'm Mark Seidel. I'm a board member of the Chamber, Los Altos native, and I work with the Ann Wojcicki Foundation.
It says Bridge 2 on your screen.
Yes, and my name is Patrick. Good morning. I live in Los Altos Hills. I'm involved in international consultancy. I'm French Italian originally in the Valley for 35 years.
Thank you. Julie, the fabulous Julie.
I'm a lifetime member and just an average citizen.
Scott.
Scott O'Brien, former chamber board member and commercial real estate.
Thank you. Joe.
Yeah, good morning, Joe Maletti, and as Scott was a former board member and resident in Baja Los Altos, and yeah, Avid Bank is my day job. Thanks.
Ellen Kamei.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Ellen Kamei, AT&T. We're a chamber member. Thanks.
She's also an elected official.
Thanks, Diana.
Tim.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm late. Past chair chamber, also with Mission Trail, the trash company.
Great. Okay, and we all know Kim, but Kim, do you want to just introduce yourself for the public?
Sure. Kim Mosley, president of the Chamber of Commerce. Welcome.
And Nicole, who hides behind the screen. She is the mastermind behind the Zoom world. Nicole's worked at the Los Altos Chamber. And again, I'm Diana, and I am on the Chamber board and also with Lucille Packard Children's Hospital, Stanford. And with us today, we have two amazing guests. Our Chief Saskia Lagergren. She is a Los Altos native, and she joined the LAPD, or the Los Altos Police Department. Let me be careful about that. On June 3rd, 2024. She brings more than 21 years of experience in policing to Los Altos, most recently serving as a police captain for the Santa Clara Police Department. Her bio is exceptional. I encourage everyone to take a look, but we're so glad to have her back in Los Altos. Captain Joe Ledoux is at a San Francisco State University graduate. He's a fellow Gator, yay. He received his BS in Business Administration with an emphasis on international business and master's in criminal justice from Boston University. His bio is also very exceptional, and I'd like to say that Los Altos PD has a really good team on force. So without further ado, we are here to have a Los Altos PD update, to hear from you all about what is on top of your mind, any questions you want to get answered, and of course, to hear what is up front on the priority list for the Los Altos Police Department. Without further ado, Chief, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Diana, and thank you all for having us this morning. We're excited to be here, both Captain Ledoux and I. We're very excited with some of the things that we're working on at Los Altos PD right now. One of our top priorities is trying to get our staffing up. When you mentioned priorities just a minute ago, the staffing is probably our biggest priority right now because we're down about 5 police officer positions. So we have a lot of really good people in our background process right now. We have about 7 people for the police officer position in backgrounds right now. So we're hopeful and optimistic that we're getting some good quality candidates. So we're hoping to get our staffing full soon. So that's one of our main priorities. And then obviously all these different initiatives that we're working on, once we have our staffing up, we're going to be able to do even more things. So just to kind of go through some of the things that we're working on right now, or that we've gotten recently, we recently got a facility dog named Boyd. He's a 2-year-old golden retriever. He was assigned to our police department in November. So he has 2 different handlers. One is one of our corporals, and then the backup handler is Captain Katie Kraus. So his role is to be kind of a comfort dog for, say, an officer goes on a child molest call and has to interview, a child that's been sexually assaulted. The dog will be there for comfort during the interview because that's a very stressful situation for the child. Or if the officer responds to a death investigation, the dog can be there just to provide comfort to the family that's affected by the death. So we use the facility dog in a lot of different ways out in the community. He'll be going to the schools and interacting with the kids, in the elementary schools and the middle schools and the high school, just providing kind of that comfort and also really building that bridge with the community, and so the youth can have positive interactions with the police. So he's also used internally within our department. Just all our staff love him. He's very comforting to our staff who deal with a lot of difficult calls. So he provides a lot of comfort just internally within our department. So we're excited to have him available. He's going to be doing, going out to some of the senior lunches and different things, interacting with the senior community too. So we're just going to use him in a lot of different ways within the department to interact with the community and just to use his services, those comfort services on those difficult calls. That's kind of the main use that we're going to use for him. Another thing we're working on is building up our wellness program. That's something that's extremely important to me. I don't feel we can effectively serve the community if our department members aren't well, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, all of that. And so we put together recently a wellness team, and they went through a training through University of California at San Diego in conjunction with the California Peace Officer Standards and Training. So they came up with a comprehensive wellness program. They're trying to implement a lot of things into our department right now to make sure that we cover all the bases as far as wellness goes. We already had some pieces of the puzzle already put in place, like we had a peer support team and some other things, but they're really trying to get the peer support team to be more robust and more active. Some of the things they're working on right now are trying to come up with healthy food options. It can be difficult working shift work. For our patrol officers, they work 12-hour shifts, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So sometimes in the middle of the night, especially, it can be difficult, if not impossible, to get healthy food, when only 7-Eleven and gas stations are open. So they're working to find like a healthy meal prep delivery service. They're looking into a couple of different options with that, where the meals would be delivered to the police department. And then our staff, could eat healthier. Some of the other things they're working on is we're trying to work on our on-duty workout program. We currently have an on-duty workout program, but because of our staffing, it makes it really difficult for the officers to actually be able to utilize that time, because that's something that's really important. We want them to stay in good physical shape, but it can be hard just based on the low staffing levels, and then since we don't have any overlap with their shifts. So they're working on a plan for that to figure out how we can make it so people can actually take advantage of that workout time. They're also working on getting more mental health resources and programs into our program, because as we all know, mental health has been a hot topic the last couple of years and has been something that hasn't really been addressed in our profession for a long time. There's a lot of stigma related to it. Fortunately, a lot of that is going away and we're moving in the right direction where people are more open to talking about it and more open to getting that help. Because in my career, I've, seen people whose career has ended because they didn't take care of their mental health. Unfortunately, with some of the things that we see in this job, it really does affect you. And if you don't deal with that, it can ultimately end your career. So we want to prevent that from happening. We want to take care of, our officers that are out there seeing those things day in and day out. So they're going to be working on getting some more mental health resources and potentially having contracts with some like culturally competent psychologists and stuff like that. They're going to also be working on financial wellness and trying to get, retirement planners to come and talk to people and other financial advisors just to really, from day one with our newer officers, even to get them set up on the right track for their finances because they have a long career ahead of them and it's good to plan ahead from the beginning, all the finances. Those are a lot of things that they're going to be working on. Another thing is we're trying to implement sleeping quarters somewhere for our officers and other staff who live far away. Unfortunately, just with the cost of living in this area, our staff is having to live farther and farther away from Los Altos. So we have a lot of people that commute from very far away, San Juan Bautista, Novato, down in the Marina area down near Monterey. So a lot of people coming from very far distances. And if they have to end up staying late after their 12-hour shift, that's 14, 16 hours. And now they're having a long drive on both ends. That can be really taxing on their health. And then they're also not getting to see their family as much. So we're trying to find a way to kind of mitigate that. So we're looking into putting in sleeping quarters where people could stay overnight if they have, a long shift. It wouldn't be somewhere where they would stay for long periods of time, but obviously just for like an overnight, or if somebody has to come back early the next morning for court, if you work a graveyard shift and then you have to be at court maybe in the afternoon, you only have 4 or 5 hours in between. So it'd be nice to have a place where the officer could go sleep for a couple hours and then go to court. So we're looking into providing that, and I think that's going to help be a nice recruiting tool too, that we offer that. Those are a lot of the things that they're working on as far as wellness goes. As I mentioned earlier, we're working on the staffing. One of the priorities once we get our staffing back up and running is to restaff our traffic unit, because right now all the motorcycle officers had to be pulled back to patrol just to fill patrol spots. So right now we only have the traffic supervisor. He's the only one that focuses mainly on traffic, but he gets pulled in a lot of different directions and has a lot of things on his plate as it relates to the traffic unit, since it's just him. So that's one of the biggest complaints that we get from the community is traffic and that type of thing. So that's definitely a priority for us. Once we get our patrol staffing up and have the extra positions, then we're going to put people back into the traffic unit as soon as we can. So they can start getting out there and just being a visible deterrent for people and just working some of the problem areas. I mean, he tries, the one sergeant that we have right now, he does his best, but he can't be everywhere all at once, all the time, obviously. So when we get more of the motorcycle officers back on the motorcycles, we're hoping to, increase the visibility and, the enforcement. We're also working on hiring a crime analyst right now. We're super excited. That's a new position for us. And so once we get that person on board, hopefully within the next 4 to 6 weeks, they're going to help us really analyze all the data that we have and recognize any crime trends that are going on. And that'll help us with our staff deployment. If there's they'll be able to figure out, if there's certain kind of areas that are hot spots for, say, auto burglaries, certain days of the week and certain times, they'll be able to analyze that information and then pass on that information to patrol. And then we can have officers kind of working in that area around those times to hopefully catch more people that are actually doing the crime. So they're going to be working on a lot of different things like that, and basically being a civilian investigator too, where they're able to work with the detectives and be a force multiplier, doing investigations to help them identify some of the people that are doing criminal activity in Los Altos. One of the main goals that I want them to work on is I I want to be more transparent with the public and put more information on our website. So I want to have more in-depth crime statistics on the website. And then a lot of our calls for service information on the website and a lot of other things. So the crime analyst is really going to work on doing that and putting out more up-to-date information on the website for the community. We're also hoping to hire a crime prevention and community engagement community service officer. So that's going to be a civilian position. We're hoping to get that added. That's not something that's happening quite yet, but hopefully soon that's something that we're going to be working toward. They would basically work hand in hand with the crime analyst, and they'll put on community presentations. So what I'd like to focus on is the prevention aspect before the crime actually happens. So the crime analyst will work on figuring out what the crime trends are, and then they'll work in conjunction with that community service officer to figure out what information we can put out to the public in order to prevent the crimes from happening. Like, for example, there's a lot of the online scams. I'm sure you guys have heard all about those, and scams through the cell phone when you get texts or when you get emails and things like that. So what we would want to do is find out what those scams are and then have community meetings where the crime prevention CSO could come and talk to the community about ways to protect yourself and ways to things to do to not fall victim to some of those scams. So we want to work proactively to identify what crimes are occurring and then do whatever we can to prevent them from happening in the first place. So that community service officer will work in conjunction with the crime analyst and in conjunction with our patrol officers. And then if there's anything, we want to hear from the public. If there's any hot topics or any areas of concern, we're open to hearing what those are. And then those are things that we can potentially then, put together some information and have a community meeting and have people come and have a discussion about whatever those hot topics are. So those are a lot of the things that we're working on right now. And then I will turn it over to Captain Ledoux. He's going to talk about some of the other initiatives that we have going on. And then after that, we can answer any questions that you guys have.
All right, thank you, Chief. Diana, thank you. And Kim, thank you. A lot of familiar faces here. And all of you that know me, that know my habits, it's 9 a.m. So I'm already 2 cups of coffee in. So if I go too fast, feel free to slow me down. But I'm going to do this uniquely in a way that I think is more interesting to everyone on this call and some of the initiatives. So hang tight. The last one I think is going to be the most excited, but I'm going to talk through some of the more recent initiatives. So one is, and some of you guys have heard these, but our police department has acquired all new handheld police radios. And why is that important, you might ask? Because it seems not very exciting. We're the first agency within the county to fully convert to these. And these now not only allow us to work on our secure and encrypted county communication system, but we also have the ability to toggle over to cellular. So in a natural disaster, if our county system was to go down, we have a redundancy. It's kind of like the Nextel. So in theory, you could have one of our radios and be perhaps dispatched to go to the fires down in LA. We would have direct line of communications with our comm center. That is unheard of technology. This is very new, cutting edge. It's exciting in the police world. So we kind of nerd out on that, but that's something that we're very proud of. Next is our drone program. We've been talking about this. We've been sending people out. We have our first pilots that have their license. We submitted our paperwork to the FAA. We're in a unique place where 90% of the city is actually covered by Moffett airspace. Now we're getting 3-dimensional and policing. This is not our forte. We're used to kind of more two-dimensional policing, but we're going to the 3rd dimension here. So we're navigating that. Those are unique circumstances to Los Altos, Mountain View, but it's not a problem. We can get through that. Our drones will probably be up in the air or available to go up in the air in the coming weeks. So we have 2 DJI 30T Matrix. Those are medium-sized drones, but they have incredible capabilities. They have thermal, so if somebody goes missing and at nighttime, we can search through wooded areas and neighborhoods and look for that thermal imaging of somebody out in the cooler weather and really get to them and give them the help that they need and get them reunited with their family quickly. We also have spotlights and PA systems so that we can communicate to people, or we can put light on a situation. There's just a lot of tools and a lot of uses for these tools. And so this came by way of, getting council permission last year and then going through the budget process and then acquiring it. And so now here we are finally in the implementation. And so we're really excited. This is a huge tool. It's a force multiplier. If there's a scenario where we have somebody that runs or commits a crime in one of our businesses, we can get that up there and try to bring that situation to a safe resolution quicker rather than longer. So we have 2 of those. We are interested in looking at indoor ones. There's a huge de-escalation component to the indoor ones where we can put a drone into a location, have 2-way communications with somebody that's perhaps in crisis or whatever the case may be. And we're not putting an officer. And so we have an opportunity to really put time and distance into that scenario where we're not using, or, you know, hopefully minimizing the ability of or likeliness of having a violent confrontation. And so we're planning on going that way. It's but you know, as it is, it's a process. Next, EV patrol vehicles. The first one was supposed to be in October, but there's some supply chain issues that are still lingering from several years ago, 4 years ago when this started. Nonetheless, the first patrol vehicle is on a train. It's on its way here. We're excited. We have the charging infrastructure here, which is one of the biggest obstacles that most agencies have. Then aside from that, we have another admin one and another patrol one. So we have a pretty sizable entry into this. We're going to be testing this. This is in line with kind of the city's direction of utilizing EV vehicles, but we're early adopters. And so what that means is not all the stuff is there for a police car. The overhead lights need to be resized to fit that vehicle. So there's a lot of things that are still in motion, but we are very much in the forefront. I would imagine, I would be hard pressed to see any other agency, at least with the Chevy Blazer, which is pursuit rated, which is very unique for police vehicles. That's the first one anywhere in this area. We are very much a kind of cutting edge in there. And so we're excited, and we're very much anticipating these vehicles landing soon and getting them out there into the public. And then we'll test it out. We anticipate that there's going to be some challenges, and we can't wait to get them out there and find out what they are. But I think it's going to be great for the community. You know, Los Altos has one, if not the highest adoption rates of EVs, at least in the state. And so we're excited to be a part of that too. Next, and getting more excited, our bikes. I hope that some of you guys saw our bikes. We had them out a couple days over the holiday season. We had a completely new fleet. Our prior bikes were over 15 years old. They worked, they're fine, but we have a whole new fleet. And our bike officers are very excited to get out into the community, especially in the business district, and be out there and be visible, be approachable. There's 2 of them that are EV, and I think if any of you saw them out there, they were handing out candy canes just before the holiday. Our officers are very excited. This is very new. Again, it's seemingly not that exciting, but for our folks, it's very exciting. Our officers love being on bikes. They love having that community engagement. As an admin, we love it because they're so much more approachable than an officer driving by in a police vehicle. We recognize that. And for our business district, which is very unique, it's very bikeable, it's very approachable, and there's that deterrence for anybody that would think of coming down and doing crime, which we know unfortunately happens on occasion. We're down there, we have that. So we're excited. Along with our bike program, we're going to have a training, kind of like a bike rodeo for our younger officers. We really want to instill early on some safe biking practices, and then hopefully they can bring those up as they go through the years. But that's not just bikes. We plan on doing that with EVs and all, or not EVs, not electric vehicles, but electric bikes. So that's exciting stuff. And you'll see more of them, you know, as Chief mentioned. As staffing gets a little bit better, you're going to see some more of this stuff kind of be visible. But so that's something that I'm very excited about. Next, as many of you know, we got the license plate readers. That was we call it Flock. That's our vendor. We're nearing our first year of implementation and having those out there, and so the council gave us a trial period of 1 year. So we're reporting back on the 28th of January, and we're excited. There's a lot of successes. There's some vulnerabilities within the program that we've identified that are based on the limitation, based on the number of cameras that we have out there. But nonetheless, we've seen successes directly attributed to the Flock cameras. I think is 4 or 5 auto theft recoveries with, you know, we've seen an increase of 75% increase in arrests for stolen vehicles or possession of stolen vehicles, which is good. And also returning $70,000 in vehicle assets back to their proper owners as a direct result of these license plate readers. And that's with a minimal footprint. So I think that's probably understating the value of what we could have with a little more robust system. But we're going to council on the 28th. We're very excited. The program has been hugely successful. Our officers love it because it's a huge investigative tool. And what I like to tell people is that it's kind of a two-way tool. One, we get the alerts when a wanted vehicle comes in our city. That's hands down great. We're gonna know if a missing person comes in our city. We're gonna know if a stolen vehicle comes, or a wanted person, that's wanted for some heinous crime, whatever that may be. Secondarily, and what's become more the expectation with our residents is it's an investigative tool. So if something has happened, the expectation is that we're looking at that tool to get a viable lead. We know that so many criminals are commuting into our community to commit crimes. And that's just by nature of the makeup of the city, the porous border, and where we sit, and that we're, for lack of better words, a victim-rich city. I mean, there's just a lot of opportunity, unfortunately. And so for that, it's interesting that more and more officers are coming back and saying that when they talk to a resident who's been, unfortunately victimized, for whatever the case may be, it's almost common now that they're asking, well, are you able to catch them on the cameras, on those license plate readers? There's only 15 in the city right now. So nonetheless, hugely, wildly successful. We're very excited. So I'm excited to go to council on the 28th. I excited to kind of get the feedback from the community. All right, next, our camera registry, 2 to go here. Camera registry. If you go to our website now, and this is huge for the business districts, but the whole community, obviously, you can register any, outward facing, street facing cameras on our website. Now, why is that so important? Well, old school, we used to have a CSO and they would do it in an Excel spreadsheet, but we're 21st century here. So you can go on, you can put that information in online, and now that pops up on a map for our officers. So if there was, let's say, an auto burglary on, 123 Main Street, they can look. And now not only can they look into our license plate readers for, potential offender vehicles or suspect vehicles, but they can look at a live map of who's sharing, hey, I have a camera outside of my business, it faces the street, and now they have that contact information. The sooner we get that, the sooner we can link that up, the sooner we can get a plate, the sooner that we can go out and start looking for that offender. Because what we do know is that oftentimes with vehicles and our suspects, they'll switch plates. And so really, the sooner that we can get that information, the sooner our detectives get it, the more likely we are to see a positive outcome by either returning that property or holding somebody accountable for those crimes. And so for the business district, there's an option on there where you can actually, and this is all done through Flock, but you can have your cameras available to the officers where they put a wing on it. And let's say you have a camera that's street facing, you want the police to be able to see that. You work through the vendor, and then if they get a call, they could sit there and actually pull it up and see that information. So like, for example, if you had a gas station and they're like, hey, yeah, we'd love to share our cameras. We don't want crime happening, or, hey, there's an audible alarm. We want you to be able to pull it up and automatically see, oh yeah, it looks like somebody's trying to drive their vehicle through the front door. We want you to see that sooner than later. That's an option. That's not done through the police department. That's all externally handled. I don't know exactly what those wings cost, but that's an option. But more importantly for us, registering it so that we know who has cameras, that's huge. It's very timely for our officers, so I encourage everyone to use it and then pass that information along. We do have a QR code that links to it, and so next time I see Kim, I'll give her a stack of them and you can get them down there. But all right, hang tight. This is my last one, and this is the most exciting one, I think, for everybody here. So we're in our infancy of looking into this, but we're looking at a drone first responder program. And this is very awesome. This would be very changing for policing. The drone first responder program is a program that links into our communications, to our CAD system when our officers are responding to calls, and would create a drone that would respond ahead of our officers. So for example, let's say there's an alarm call. As our dispatcher is taking that information and they're putting in an alarm call, we could have the capability, if this all happens, comes to fruition, launch a drone immediately to this business or to this residence, and likely before an officer even gets that call into their computer in their vehicle, have a drone overhead streaming information right to that officer. And so they could see if there's suspects actively breaking in, or perhaps it's the wind, perhaps it's a false alarm, whatever the case may be. Why this is so huge is just what we talked about earlier, the timeliness of being able to get on scene and get to these calls. The chief mentioned, like every other police department in the state of California, we're struggling to get fully staffed. I don't know of any agency that's fully staffed, and they are wonderful for them, but we're not. This is a force multiplier. This gets us the ability to sit there and give the crucial services that our community, our business, our residents expect from us more timely. And it also helps us kind of allocate our resources because, you know, when we have, for example, poor weather, what we see is that a lot of people have false alarms. The weather triggers alarms, whatever the case may be. These drones can fly in 30-mile-an-hour winds, in rain, all that. So it really enhances our ability to be more places, be quicker. It's a force multiplier for us. But it's new, right? So we need to get through and we need to make sure that people are comfortable with it. There's a lot of concerns that come into play with it, but it's an automated system. So we would still have somebody that would be there kind of running that program. But this is very much like just outside the box. This is new in policing. It's not, I think Campbell Police and a couple agencies have piloted this program. So it's not like it's unheard of, but it's incredibly exciting. And so, you know, I think of the example of the theft downtown over the summer back in July, I think it was. The ability to have a drone that can get up to the city. I think we saw a drone, a demonstration, but I think it's like within 90 seconds, it could be anywhere in the city. So as a call taker is taking in that information, as an officer is responding through traffic and all that other stuff, it is conceivable that a drone could be overhead, see that vehicle double park, and as that vehicle flees, that drone can go ahead with the operator, they can click a box and put it on that vehicle and it will stay with that vehicle. And these drones don't fly so high that they're, you know, really a problem for aircraft. They can go 50 some miles an hour, so they can sit there and trail it for a period of time so that our officers can get in place. So we're super excited. You can probably tell in my voice, I'm so excited for this program. I think everybody in the department's excited. You guys are really the first group of stakeholders that I've talked to about this. The plan is to spend the next year or you know, at least several months and talk to a lot of the stakeholders and get input on it and make sure that it really aligns with our community values. We wouldn't bring it forward if we didn't think it did, but it's certainly important to hear all the stakeholders' opinions and make sure that it fits for our community. But some really exciting initiatives. So anyways, those are my things. I will turn it back over to you guys. Happy to answer questions. And I apologize that I'm 2 cups of coffee in, but this is all exciting stuff.
That is actually really excited. And I don't know if it's your excitement that just like comes through the screen, but I'm a lover of technology and it sounds so amazing. So congratulations to Los Altos PD for this. So I have questions, but I want to make sure that the folks on the call, just take yourself off of mute or raise your hands if you want to ask a question. And I have a couple. I'm going to start with what the chief was talking about, the wellness issues. Chief, in your experience, like how early does burnout happen? I mean, does it vary from department to department or just, I mean, because I know a lot of folks tend to retire rather young, but what does the burnout rate look like?
Yeah, I don't have specific data on that. I think it does really vary from person to person, not even necessarily from department to department, but from person to person, just depending on what, you know, what type of calls that you've seen over the course of your career. You know, I was speaking with one of our brand new officers who just finished training, and he had mentioned to me that he'd already been to 4 death investigations. And then he was talking with another officer who's been here for about 3 years, and that officer had said, well, they had only been to 1 in that period of time. So it's kind of random what calls you end up going to. So, you know, for somebody who's dealt with a lot of those different incidents that are kind of more triggering events or more traumatic events, you know, it's something that could potentially come earlier than somebody who maybe doesn't deal with as many of those things or get exposed to so many of those calls. But it also varies individually. You know, some types of calls affect people different than other people. So there's kind of no one size fits all. And that's why we just want to make sure that we have the resources available to everybody, no matter what calls they've been on or how many, just if they feel affected by calls, even if they don't feel affected by calls, I think it's good for them to be able to talk to somebody, to the mental health professionals, people that are used to dealing with first responders. I think it's good for our staff just to be able to talk to, you know, somebody that works with the first responders and knows kind of what they go through. Because I've heard in my experience, police psychologists, I mean, you just have to kind of unpack things every once in a while and not let everything get bottled up. So I think periodic kind of check-ins with a psychologist would be helpful, and that might be something that we look into doing here, where just every so often you have kind of just a check-in, and then just to make sure that mentally that, you know, you're on track and that you're doing all right. So again, no one size fits all. It varies, I think, from individual person, depending on what instance they've been exposed to, and then just kind of how it affects you.
I think that's great. I did 6 years in human resources for another local city government agency, and it's just really big important. So I really just applaud that movement. Captain, so a couple of things about the drones. I think, you know, most likely the number one concern is privacy, right? Where does that line get drawn? But my question is more, and we can talk about that if you like, but I just have a really simple question, and I've been dying to know who operates the drones? Like, you're on shift work, right? So there has to be somebody on the shift time to operate the drones if it has to be dispatched, or like, so that's just more behind the scenes question, because I always just wondered, like, who is flying those drones?
Well, so I have two answers. One is the drones that we have currently we have 6 folks or 7 folks actually within the organization, both sworn officers and professional staff that are going through getting their pilot license. And so what'll happen is there'll be a drone at the station so that if something happens, our professional staff can go and supplement during the daytime while they're working. And then we also have coverage with our officers. It'll be another tool that those that are qualified, that have the license, will take out in their vehicles and deploy out there. So that's the first one. That's the ones that we have. And those are for certain events, right? That's for some in progress crime or whatever the case may be. The last thing that I talked about, this drone first responder program, that is an outstanding question, because this is more than just a drone in a program. It's also about the staffing and what that looks like. And, you know, we're very early on. And so you guys are kind of getting this very much in its infancy, and it'll probably evolve to something a little more refined than what I'm going to give you. But we're looking at creating a new position, and this is not not the price of an officer, not necessarily a dispatcher. This is a unique position that's basically a drone operator that understands some kind of fundamental tactics in law enforcement. But the cool thing about this is they, in theory, can do this remotely, right? So this opens up the opportunity to get people in the door that maybe this is their early step into law enforcement, because I'm sure that once they do this, they'll see how fun law enforcement is. But it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that has to come and sit in the station. Now, it may end up being that, and it may be a whole new job classification. And so you can see, like, this is a kind of a slow burn process because it's very in depth, but it's not likely going to be our dispatchers, right? If something critical pops off and we have a dispatcher or 2 dispatchers working, the last thing we expect is them to be responsible for a drone flying through Los Altos at the same time. So it would be a new job classification likely. And hopefully one that we can open up to perhaps some of the younger members in our community, or retired people, doesn't really matter. But the idea that I like about some of the younger folks is that they get excited about law enforcement, and perhaps, just perhaps, this could be a feeder into other positions within the organization that are sometimes harder to recruit for, but our officers, our dispatchers, all of our professional staff. But it's, it's completely open. It could be retired people, it could be anything. So it's really exciting, really neat. I think in its early stages, it'll likely sit here at the department, but when we got the demonstration, they were flying a drone in the town of Southern California, but they were operating it out in Nevada. And that's just, it kind of goes to this remote work. Like, it opens up lots of opportunity. And so all that needs to be ironed out. But I think ultimately what we would look for is, kind of find what the optimal hours are, where we see the most use cases for it, and then figure out what positions and how we could manage that. But I'm pretty excited. I think it'll be a new job classification. We never heard of a police drone operator, but we're headed that way, I think.
That's so cool. The future is here, y'all. I was really intrigued by the technology that will allow you to know when a missing person, a stolen car enters the city. But then what? Like, you lose track of the person or the car or whatnot. How do you know? Do you notify the neighboring jurisdictions as well, and just say, hey, we had eyes on this vehicle, we lost it on its way to Sunnyvale? Like, I'm just kind of curious about, like, how the communication flows.
Yeah, well, it would depend on, we'll get the direction. For example, let's say it's northbound on San Antonio. we'll know that, and perhaps it's at El Camino Real, and so we make that notification to Mountain View. Our dispatch is a Tri-City with Mountain View, Palo Alto, and us, so it's live. We can sit there and say, hey, within the past minute, this wanted vehicle was here. If it's being followed by the drone, the same thing. Post 9/11, our police radios have interoperability, which allows us to switch over and talk to any, not any, but those agencies that we have MOUs with or memorandums of understanding. And so we can get that information in real time. We can sit there and say, hey, we're following a vehicle, there's a active warrant on it, and this is the direction it's going on Foothill, or it can go through our dispatch center. So we can go different ways. But now with the new technology post 9/11, it's pretty quick and pretty rapid.
That's really cool.
Did I get your answer there, Diana?
You did. That was
Okay.
that was great. I'm like, I want a sign that says like criminals beware. Like that would be great. I'm just checking the room one more time. Are there any questions or comments from anyone in the room? This is not normally a shy group, so I just want to make sure I don't miss anybody.
Abby.
Oh, Abby, yes.
Yeah.
Chief, as the dog-friendly hotel in town, I was waiting till all the important questions got answered before I brought up mine. First of all, the dog's name. Again, the handler. Next, will it get Lord's bulletproof vest? Are we getting a second dog that is used more for crime? And do we still have what we raised money for here at the hotel in a fabulous event with your former handler and dog? We raised money for bulletproof vests and for the cooling system that was used in the vehicle that the dog rode around in. So a lot of questions, but Chief, I hope you can help.
Yeah, so first, you asked the name of the dog. His name is Boyd, B-O-Y-D. The handler is Corporal Jess Vernon. So he rides in her patrol vehicle with her and goes out on patrol when she's working. When she's not working, he goes home with her. So he's just not on duty. If she's on vacation, then or away at a training or unavailable, then he'll go with the secondary handler, which is Captain Kraus. And then the next question, I believe, was about the vest. We did not have any plans for him to have a bulletproof vest at this time. Most likely that's probably because he's not going to be taken out during a high risk situation, and he's going to be more just at community events and that sort of thing, or on a call that's not high risk anymore. He's going to be on scene once everything has settled down. So we didn't have any plan necessarily to get a vest for him. Unlike our apprehension dog, the apprehension dog is the one that will go out and actually try to apprehend. So they're two completely different uses. And so we don't have any plans at this time to get another canine because we have Boyd, the facility dog, and then we have the apprehension dog as well. So no other plans for any other dogs at this point. As far as the cooling system goes, I don't know, Captain Ledoux, if you have any information about that. I believe we might have that in one of the patrol cars, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, we already outfitted those vehicles, and so I appreciate the offer, but we're pretty good for the moment on that particular request.
Oh, well, we provided the money actually for the first system with an event at the hotel. And Chief, I'm thinking about a dog wedding at the hotel. And maybe we can make use of bring kids in again. Officers came with the trading cards, and we had the handler, our first handler, Julie.
Oh yeah.
Something for us to talk about if there's something the hotel can do that would be supportive of this kind of thing.
We could work on maybe doing an event or something like that. Absolutely. Did I answer all your questions?
The name of the other dog. So we do have the apprehension dog.
His name is Brock, B-R-O-C-K.
Oh no, that's my high school principal's son's name. I've never called him a dog, but now I can. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments? I gotta say, this was super informational. Really excited about all the things happening in Los Altos. Now I wish I lived in the Los Altos. Every month we have these meetings, and I'm always like, man, I wish I lived there. But all right, final comments, Chief. You have the floor again.
No, just thank you for having both of us. We're excited to hear from the business community and work together with you. I guess just do you have anything that you need from us that could help you in your positions?
A motor car escort to and from work. How about this?
That would be amazing.
I'm kidding, of course. Never would I abuse the power. No, but I'm sure Kim is such an amazing president and CEO of our chamber. She helps talk about our business issues highly, and I know you are all in communication constantly, I believe. So, Kim, I'll let you say anything to that.
Sure. I might just highlight a few things that we partner very closely together with our police department, and Captain Ledoux has been really integral in that. So we have regular meetings between our business organizations, primarily brick and mortar businesses, where we discuss safety tips and just have great conversation. It's amazing how when we get everyone into the room, the kinds of things that come up, details and incidences that have happened that people may not have even reported. And so just having that kind of regular community conversation has been really helpful. So I appreciate, his effort, and especially in that regard. And then in addition to that, we do regular walk-arounds, sometimes with a member of my board of directors as well, but at least Joe and I will walk around our business districts and, talk with business owners, and that's been really, really beneficial as well. I just wanted to, encourage everyone with the presentation that's coming up, I guess, January 28th, is what you said, for the flock cameras. They really have been, helpful to our businesses in being able to, to look up information about the perpetrators of crime after they've happened. And these incidents have happened, and the more cameras that we have in different strategic locations, the better job our police department can do, to effectively track these things down. So I think any way that we can help support their efforts on January 28th would be, greatly appreciated. I'll provide a letter and I'm happy to appear and support. But if anyone else would, be interested in doing the same, I know that really does make a difference to our city council members when they're reviewing these things, and sometimes getting feedback with other concerns. But overall, what we've seen, not just in Los Altos, but really, across the region and across the country, is a very effective use of this tool. I also wanted to mention that it's especially helpful when you are understaffed, right? And I think the use of technology, whether it's the flock cameras or the drones or other things, can help when our staffing is limited, to be a force multiplier in many ways. So I think that's important for us to keep in mind as well. Is there anything that we can do to help support you better in these regards, Captain or Chief?
From my perspective, I'll let the captain speak, but no, I think we have a good partnership right now. I think we have a good working relationship. The one thing I would ask is just is the camera registry that he spoke about. If anybody has cameras, look into that. At least at minimum, register those with us so that we know that you have the cameras, and then you can look further into whether or not you want to integrate the cameras. That's a decision you can make. But just, and then passing the word along to anyone and everyone else, whether business or residential, for that camera registry. Because the more we have in the list, like the better of a tool that it's going to be for us, and it's going to save time for us. One thing, actually, going back to the flock comment and needing more cameras, I mean, we only have 15. So even though we're a small city, I mean, 15, I mean, that hardly covers any area at all. And one of the issues that we run into, if a vehicle drives by and there's an alert on it, we don't necessarily know which direction it went. Whereas if we had more cameras, it would at least, you know, give us a general direction. You know, if it pings off one camera and then another camera, okay, you know, it's going north. So officers can kind of vector and they know which direction the car might be going. Whereas right now, when there's just maybe the one camera in the area, it hits off that one camera and then there's a whole radius around it. You don't know if it went north, south, east, west. So that's just to kind of put that in perspective. It would be helpful to have more cameras so we can better figure out which direction somebody's going. Because unless you're on scene right then when it hits off the camera, we're not going to necessarily be able to get there in time. But that would be where, you know, the drones that Captain Ledoux spoke about, where those could be helpful in getting on scene quicker. But again, just more cameras, which would help us kind of better have an idea of which direction the car continued to go. But I'll turn it back over to Captain Ledoux if he has anything else where you guys can help us out.
No, I would just add to that, Kim, your conversation. It's been, I feel like our relationship with the business district and my time here has been growing stronger and stronger. And I really appreciate people's input. We've certainly heard the input on wanting to see the bikes out there, and you guys got just a teaser of it recently, but we're excited to have more of that in the future as staffing allows, but also just, you know, kind of sharing the word, growing this group, bringing those concerns forward. You know, it was your guys' recommendations that got patrol vehicles parked in our business districts downtown over the holiday season to hopefully, if anybody wanted to come down and try to commit, crimes, they at least saw those vehicles. And I think that deterrence worked. I was pulling up the statistics recently from last year to this year. And, you know, just anecdotally, it seemed to be pretty effective. I don't have all the hard data in front of me yet, but those are your guys' ideas. And that's what we really value, is having that two-way street. Like I'd love to come and tell you the initiatives that we're looking into, but really what's more important is hearing from the business district and the community district what you guys want to see out of us. And that is a direct representation. Just last month, the vehicles being there, that was from you guys. And so we really look forward to kind of just keeping this momentum, building on it, and continuing to kind of be there for each other. Make this the desirable, safe community where people are coming. They're not worried about having their vehicles broken into, like we see in some of our big cities nearby, where it's a little more like that. But that's a collaborative effort, and we've seen the fruition of that, already develop. But I'm excited to kind of see that grow. So thank you.
Captain, we're about ready to update our camera system. Is it you that I should be talking to, maybe to get a little information on what would be helpful? We discovered when you tried to use it, we were not very successful, and it's got limited days, which isn't, so I don't have anyone on staff that's really knowledgeable about what's needed, but the hotel's in a perfect position. And we just yesterday did our list for this year, and that was one of the things on it. Are you who we should?
Yeah, music to my ears, Abby. I'm happy. You see me walk by probably every other day going down to get coffee, so I can pop in. And if I'm not the expert in everything, but I can certainly direct you to somebody. I don't necessarily endorse any particular product, but we can talk about kind of effective deployment of it. And so I can stop by, or you can send me an email either way. But music to my ears.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Captain.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for being here with us, Chief, Captain. And there is a link to the camera registry that's in the chat box, folks. So feel free to check that out. Thank you both again. Kim, any final announcements?
Just a couple of things for the calendar that I'd like for you to put out for the spring. So State of the Cities, we have planned for April 25th. So I wanted to share that date with you. That's Friday, April 25th. We've just been able to schedule that and to work with our legislative calendars so that our elected officials can be in attendance. And then I wanted to share an exciting new event that we're planning for June the 7th. It is going to be the Taste of Los Altos. And so the idea behind that is small town, big flavor. So we'll be highlighting many of our local restaurants, the incredible chefs and small bites and cocktails and things that we have here in our community. And so I'd like for you to put that on your calendar as well.
Great.
That was June 7th.
All right. Without further ado, Happy New Year, everyone. Enjoy the next 12 months and see you all next month for another wonderful GA committee meeting. Thank you again and have a good day. Bye.
I can mention too that the next session will be related to the plastic, reusable plastic ordinances and sustainable products, new ordinances for our restaurants. Thank you.
Bye.